Welcome to our deep dive into the cybersecurity landscape.
Ooh.
Over the past few weeks,
Yeah.
we've got a stack of SecureFact newsletters from Mage data.
Okay.
And let me tell you, January has been a wild ride.
It really has.
They provide these weekly snapshots of global cyber incidents.
Yeah.
And they paint a pretty intense picture.
They do.
You know, unpack who got hit,
Right.
how it happened, and what it all means for
Yeah.
you.
Uh-huh.
But instead of just listing breaches, I want to explore some of the deeper trends and implications.
Okay.
For example,
Yeah.
we'll dive into how an attack on a blood supplier
Okay.
led to real-world consequences,
Wow.
far beyond just data theft.
Yeah, that's a crucial point.
Yeah.
Understanding the ripple effects of these attacks is really essential.
Okay, let's start with a breach that sent shockwaves
Okay.
through the education sector power school. This educational software giant, used by countless schools, suffered a major hit, potentially affecting a staggering 62.4 million students and 9.5 million teachers.
Wow. The scale of this breach is truly alarming.
It is.
Think about the sensitive data stored in school district databases.
Yeah.
Grades, medical records, disciplinary actions, even financial information.
Yeah.
It's a goldmine for hackers.
Absolutely. And what's even more concerning is how they got in through the customer support portal.
Oh, wow.
It really highlights the fact that any point of access, no matter how mundane it seems,
Right.
can be a vulnerability.
Yeah, it's a stark reminder that robust security measures need to be in place
Yes.
across the board, covering every potential entry point.
Now, if you thought the Power School breach was massive,
Yeah.
buckle up for this next one.
Okay.
United Health Group,
Okay.
in conjunction with Change Healthcare,
Uh-huh.
experienced a breach that potentially affected a staggering 190 million Americans.
That's incredible.
That's almost 60% of the U.S. population.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling.
It is.
And it really underscores the interconnectedness of our digital world.
It does.
One breach at a healthcare data processing company can have a cascading effect impacting millions.
Right.
We're talking names, addresses, dates of birth, social security numbers, health insurance details, a treasure trove of sensitive information.
This incident really underscores the immense responsibility
Yeah.
healthcare providers have
Yeah,
in safeguarding our most personal data.
for sure.
It raises some serious questions about the industry's current security practices.
Absolutely. This should be a wake-up call for the entire healthcare sector to prioritize and bolster their security measures.
And it seems healthcare wasn't the only sector targeted.
Oh, really?
Ransomware gangs were particularly active this month,
Okay.
with hospitals and healthcare providers facing the brunt of these attacks.
It's a disturbing trend.
It is.
And I think it comes down to a few factors.
Go ahead.
These organizations are dealing with incredibly sensitive data, and they often can't afford downtime,
Right.
making them prime targets for attackers who know they're more likely to pay the ransom.
It's a cynical strategy.
It is.
And as we saw with the attack on OneBlood, the largest blood supplier in North America,
Oh, wow.
the consequences can be devastating.
Yeah, so you see, this isn't just about stolen data.
Right.
This is about real-world consequences.
Huh?
OneBlood had to revert to manual processes after the attack, leading to critical delays in blood transfusions.
Wow.
Lives were potentially put at risk.
Wow, this really highlights the fragility
Yes.
of our critical infrastructure
Yes.
in the face of cyber attacks.
Definitely.
It's a stark reminder that the impact of these attacks goes far beyond the digital realm, and that everyone, from individuals to organizations, has a role to play in securing our digital world. But before we get into individual responsibility, let's look at another vulnerability that came to light, a flaw in Cloudflare's content delivery network, or CDN.
Okay.
This one is particularly concerning for anyone who values their privacy, especially journalists and activists.
Right.
You might think you're safe using secure messaging apps like Signal or Discord, which boast end-to-end encryption.
Uh-huh.
However, this flaw could expose your general location through something as simple as an image.
Really?
Wait, how is that impossible?
Well,
I thought these apps were supposed to be super secure.
it exploited a timing issue
Okay.
in how images were loaded on Cloudflare's CDN.
Okay.
Essentially a system of servers that help websites load faster.
Right.
This allowed attackers to correlate request times with geographic server locations, potentially pinpointing your whereabouts.
That's unsettling.
Yeah.
Feels like a violation of privacy.
Yeah, for sure.
And this wasn't the only location-related breach. Millions of hotel reservations were exposed through a compromised Atlassian server used by Hotelier, a hotel management platform. We're talking Marriott, Hilton, Hyatt, and more.
Oh, geez.
Again, it highlights the importance of securing every link in the chain.
For sure.
A single compromised server can have massive repercussions. So it's not just about protecting our data, it's about protecting our physical location as well.
Right.
As our reliance on digital services grows, this becomes even more critical. But are these high-profile attacks just the tip of the iceberg? Are smaller companies and niche industries also being targeted?
Absolutely.
Okay.
STIIIZY, a major cannabis brand,
Okay.
was hit exposing customer IDs and purchase histories.
Wow.
It raises interesting questions about data security in emerging industries.
Yeah.
As cannabis becomes more mainstream and regulations evolve,
Right.
data security needs to be a top priority.
Imagine the potential fallout from a breach involving medical marijuana patients.
Exactly.
It's a sobering thought, and it's not just emerging industries.
Right.
Even critical infrastructure isn't immune.
Right.
Nominet, the UK domain registry, was breached. Luckily, no data leakage was detected.
Right.
But it demonstrates how even the most vital systems can be targeted.
It paints a somewhat unsettling picture, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Schools, healthcare, even the internet itself, no one seems to be immune.
It's a stark reality. So what can we do about it?
Well,
Should we all just disconnect from the internet and hide under our beds?
tempting as that might be,
Yeah.
there are more practical steps we can take.
Okay.
One key takeaway from all these incidents is the importance of the human element.
Right.
So many breaches involved compromised employee credentials or simple mistakes.
Like the incident with Ascension Health.
Yeah.
One employee downloads a malicious file, and boom, 5.6 million people are affected.
It's crazy.
It really drives home the importance of cybersecurity awareness training for everyone, not just IT professionals.
Exactly. We need to foster a culture of cybersecurity awareness.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the risks and taking responsibility for our own digital actions.
That makes sense. But what about the good guys, the cybersecurity vendors themselves?
Right?
Surely they have their act together, right?
You would think so, wouldn't you? But even they're not invincible. Leaked account credentials from companies like CrowdStrike and McAfee were found on the dark web.
Oh, no.
It's a constant arms race. No one is immune.
So even those tasked with protecting us are being targeted.
Yeah.
It's starting to feel like a bit of a cybersecurity horror movie.
Yeah.
Is there any good news at all?
Well, the good news is that awareness is growing.
Okay.
Companies are beginning to take cybersecurity more seriously, and individuals are becoming more vigilant about protecting their data.
Okay, so it's not all doom and gloom,
Right.
but it's certainly a lot to process. We've covered a lot of ground already, but let's shift gears a bit and dive deeper into what we can all do to protect ourselves in this increasingly perilous digital landscape.
With so many breaches involving compromised credentials, how can we move towards more secure authentication methods?
That's a great question.
Hmm.
Maybe something like biometric authentication or multi-factor authentication,
Right.
where you need more than just a password to log in. I know I'm already using those for some of my accounts.
Those are certainly steps in the right direction. But we need to think even bigger. What are the authentication methods of the future? How can we create a digital world where our identities are truly secure? It's a challenge that requires innovation and collaboration.
That's a great point. It's not just about the technology itself, it's about how we use it and how we can evolve our security measures to stay ahead of the curve.
Precisely, the future of cybersecurity isn't just about technology. It's about how we adapt and evolve our behavior and practices in this increasingly interconnected world.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to bring this deep dive to a close.
Okay.
It's been a roller coaster ride through the cybersecurity landscape,
It has.
but I hope it's been informative and maybe even a little empowering.
I agree. Knowledge is power, right?
It is.
And now that we're all armed with this information, we can go out there and be more vigilant, more cautious, and more secure in our digital lives.
That's a wrap on this episode of The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into the most fascinating and thought-provoking topics of the day. You know, we've talked about all these data breaches,
Yep.
millions of records here, terabytes of data there.
Right.
But what does that actually look like
Yeah.
in the hands of a hacker?
That's a good question.
It's easy to get lost in the numbers,
Yeah.
but we have to remember that behind every data point
Mm-hmm.
is a real person.
That's a crucial point. It's easy to think of data breaches as these abstract events,
Yeah.
but the consequences can be very real and very personal.
Right, like with that one blood attack,
Right.
it's not just about some faceless organization being hacked.
Uh-huh.
It's people's names,
Mm-hmm.
social security numbers, medical histories,
Yeah.
all floating around the dark web,
Yep.
potentially being used for identity theft or even worse.
Exactly. And think about the ripple effects.
Yeah.
OneBlood had to revert to manual processes, which led to delays in blood transfusions. That's a life or death situation.
Right.
We often think of cyber attacks as happening in this abstract digital realm, but the consequences can be devastating.
It's terrifying when you think about it, and it's not just healthcare. We've seen it across the board. Schools, government agencies, even the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
No one is immune. It really highlights the interconnectedness of our digital world and the far-reaching impact of these attacks.
And that's why it's so crucial to understand the human element in all of this.
Right.
So many of these breaches started with something simple: a phishing email, a weak password, an employee clicking on a malicious link.
It's like that Ascension Health incident where one wrong click by an employee led to millions of people's data being compromised.
Yep.
It's a stark reminder that cybersecurity awareness and training are essential for everyone, not just IT professionals.
Absolutely. We need to cultivate a culture of cybersecurity awareness within organizations and in our personal lives. It's not just about installing the latest antivirus software. It's about understanding the risks, being cautious, and adopting good digital hygiene practices.
So what you're saying is we can't just rely on companies and governments to protect us. We have to be proactive ourselves.
Precisely, we need to shift from a mindset of being reactive to being proactive, and it's not as daunting as it might seem.
Okay.
Simple things like using strong passwords, being wary of suspicious emails and links, and keeping your software up to date can make a huge difference.
Okay, I'm feeling a little more empowered now.
Good.
But it's still a lot to take in. Where do we even begin?
A good place to start is by educating yourself. There are tons of resources available online, from government websites to cybersecurity blogs to podcasts like ours.
Hey, that's a good plug, but seriously, the more you know, the better equipped you'll be to navigate this digital world safely.
Exactly. Knowledge is power. And remember, cybersecurity is an ongoing journey, not a destination. It's about staying informed, staying vigilant, and adapting to the ever-evolving threat landscape.
Well said. And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into the cybersecurity abyss. It's been a wild ride, but I hope you've come away with a better understanding of the threats we face and the steps we can take to protect ourselves.
I agree. And remember, cybersecurity is a shared responsibility. We all have a role to play in creating a safer digital world. So stay informed, stay curious, and stay safe out there.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into a new, fascinating topic. Landscape.